and welcome. This is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Gif.
And we are here tonight to wrap up our Spooktacular.
You know what this episode is going to be, guys? No
What is
trick,
it?
all treat.
Oh, nice.
This is the treat episode of the month.
It's definitely the more kid-friendly of the subject matter.
We survived the Blair Witch and Freddy's dumb puns and Jason and Leatherface, all their tricks. They did not work. So tonight we are going to get into the TV realm, and we are going to talk about some Halloween specials. So Halloween is coming in less than a week, and so that's why we saved this one for last. What did you say there, Pete?
I just said I cannot wait.
Oh, you cannot wait.
I love Halloween.
So, well, on the other side, we're going to talk about we talked about our adult memories in our first episode. Tonight, we're going to talk about what it was like when we were kids. And so I will kick you off here with my childhood memories, which weren't great. I am not a big Halloween guy.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
What do you want me to say? I'm not a big Halloween guy.
Well, this is a disappointment. This episode.
But no, there's things I love about it.
this whole month has been just hell for you, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
That's a trick.
Here's the deal. I had those good memories we talked about as adults. You know, we find the right people and costumes and parties to go to, and it was fun, and it still is, and it's fun with my own kids now. I love it with my own kids. But I don't know. When I was a kid, I don't have many memories, and most of them are like feeling embarrassed. So I only have like two really like distinct memories in my head of Halloween. And one is a year where I had dressed up as a hobo.
A hobo. I remember that.
My mom picked it out, and like, I don't know, we didn't have any other costumes, and she's like, "You're just gonna be a hobo." And I hated that costume, and I felt stupid in it, and I don't even know. I don't remember many others.
I remember it, and I thought it was fantastic. It
was a good costume. Like, it was well done. I know that. I mean, my mom created it, so of course it's going to be good. I also remember a year, and maybe it was even that same year, I don't know. But there used to be like a party at the elementary school in the old little gym.
Yeah.
And I remember going to that one year, but like, I don't ever remember hanging out with any of my friends on Halloween. It's so weird when I think back. So I felt alone at that party, and I felt like I couldn't wait to get out of there, and nobody was there. And I just wanted to go and get back to my grandma's house because they lived in town. So that's where we would spend like the night and stuff during this time. So I really don't get it. I don't really understand because I have friends. I mean, you guys are my friends. Pete, you were always my friend, and we did stuff together all the time.
We didn't trick-or-treat together, though.
I don't remember ever trick-or-treating with hardly anybody.
Well, part of it is...
I don't remember trick-or-treating with you.
Like, I don't remember it. I don't know.
Well, when we were all young, we were on farms.
That's
so it's
part
not
of
like
it.
You can just walk down. I mean, you'd have to walk a mile to the neighbors to trick-or-treat. So
I went into town.
Come on.
Because both my grandparents lived in Tyler, so I would be in Tyler, so I could easily hook up with Pete and Haken and whoever else.
Sure.
Hold on, I'm picturing Gifford on the farm trick-or-treating. I walked like 7 miles, and I got like 4 pieces of candy.
Can't you give me something better?
2 miniature Snickers and a Twix bar.
And on to the next house, 3 miles down the road.
Right, exactly.
Hope I don't get hit by a car.
What I'm saying is, like, for kids who grow up on farms, it's not like you go out your front door and you meet up with all your buddies and you walk in your neighborhood. You don't live in a neighborhood. So
I guess for you, yes. But see, I went into Tyler, so...
Right. You needed an adult assist to get you into a town to trick-or-treat.
So anyway,
right.
I don't get... Because, I have a memory like steel trap. You and me both do, Pete. I remember everything. That's why this podcast is easy to do. But I have like hardly any memories of Halloween. I don't remember hanging out with anybody. I don't remember going to anybody's house. Nobody ever seemed to have a party. I don't remember trick-or-treating. And so it just always felt like kind of a lonely time for some reason. That's how I look back on it. And I'm sure it wasn't that bad, but that's how I look back on it. But that does lead to my choice for tonight, which is the holiday specials, which I would watch on the farm alone. My brother and sister would be around, but they're much older. And so I think it ties into that. Like, that's what I remember. That's what I could do by myself. I could watch Charlie Brown. I could watch Garfield every year. And so that's why we're going to be talking about those in a little bit here. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of memories of Halloween. It's really weird. Doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of my life and my memories. So
That's the saddest story I've ever
isn't
heard.
it so sad?
Well, and I can go next
Yeah,
year.
you go ahead, yeah.
What I
Because yours
remember.
sounds like the next saddest, Mr.
Well,
Trick or
what I
treating on
remember from
farms.
growing up during Halloween was going to Pete's Spooktacular Halloween parties every year, and we would make fun of the fact that Brad wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
there it
best
is.
times.
Oh, we pinned the tail on the Sorensen. Remember that? We
Right.
played that.
Oh, it was just the best time. Oh God, it was just great.
Even before we knew you in fifth grade. You were
Yeah.
at his parties in third and grade and second grade.
I was still
before
invited.
you-
He invited everybody. Yeah, it's just not Brad.
I knew it. I always knew it.
So much like Brad, I don't really remember doing like traditional trick or treating. I do remember a couple costumes though, because we could go into the Russell School and they would have like a little thing in the gym.
Oh, so you had one too.
Yeah, and the kids would come in and you kind of run around and have some fun with your friends. I remember for a few years in a row, I was just a ghost. Mom would take a sheet and cut a couple holes in it, and here's your costume.
Just like Charlie Brown.
Exactly.
The 80s were hard times for farmers.
Right. Exactly.
You know, Gifford, what you should have done
Here's
is
your
dressed
sheet,
up
Brian. Wear it again.
Right.
You should have dressed up as a marathon runner and then gone from house to house on the farm. That would have been
Just put a
perfect.
bib on. Yeah, just run. So a couple other costumes I can remember. I had a Bo Duke Halloween costume. It was just like the plastic thing that you'd put on your body, and then the plastic mask with just the two eye holes and the little slit for the mouth, and you could never breathe out of those.
I had a Cookie Monster one of those. That's the other one I
Complemented
remember.
It complemented well with the Daisy Duke outfit that I was wearing that year that you and I were together, right?
Right, yes. And I showed up on my Dukes of Hazzard big wheel that we all got for Christmas at one point. You guys remember back to the Christmas special.
That's correct.
I remember in fifth grade, we had a little dress up. And I went as a punk. And I remember I bought this orange hair paint. So that was one of the things. I think I had like a denim vest or something. I don't know. But my favorite memories, 2 years in a row, a group of us in high school, we went out and stole pumpkins. And junior year was the best year for this because basically all we did was run around Tyler, and we stole the pumpkins in Tyler, and we took them to the school lawn, and we just piled them all up and made kind of a big pumpkin display. And then the next year, senior year, we did it again, and we had a much bigger group of kids that all wanted to do it as well. And the problem was everybody in Tyler took their pumpkins in on Halloween.
And you know who was one of those people was my mom.
Yes.
So I totally remember these things. And this is another one. Like, so why didn't I go with, but I guess this was more of the party crew, which I was always kind of not quite in there. And I didn't feel comfortable stealing pumpkins. And I'm sure you were drinking too.
I don't remember because the second year we drove a lot. Like we had a whole group of people. And I mean, I remember going to Ballatin and Russell and like some neighboring towns to steal pumpkins. And then of course,
I do have a memory of that, but I did not partake. And then that second year, I remember like we took the pumpkins in, and I'm like, oh God, they're going to do it again. And
that was a lot of
big
fun.
nerds sitting at home.
There's those kids.
That was a lot of fun. So those 2 years are probably my favorite two Halloween memories growing up. And obviously not as a child, but as 16, 17-year-old,
you were still in the custody of your parents. That counts.
I was, yes.
Right.
So those are my stories there, Pete. What do you got for us?
So for me, the trick-or-treating memories were always with so my two best friends. I had Brad as one of my best friends in elementary school. My other best friend, his name is Adam. And I try not to say last names, but Gifford, you and Brad both know who he is. But and I think he's a listener of the show. He follows us on Facebook.
He
So
has
shout
made
out to Adam.
comments.
You know, yeah, he's made comments. They're great.
Thanks, Adam.
So there you go. Anyway, usually after school, I would go up to his place because he was the one in town and I lived on a farm, as we have discussed. And that was what it was. He lived in the part of town called Browerville, which, Brad, you're very familiar with.
Yes, the rich part of Tyler, the suburbs.
The rich part, right.
Oh, speaking of that, though, now that you bring it up, I just, because I always remember you living in town, but you didn't move to town till like sixth grade. So that would explain part of it, like why we maybe didn't get together in elementary school, because we both were in Tyler, but apparently we were doing different things because it's not
Right.
like we could go to your house or something.
Right. It was
So
much easier.
that helps
once we all-
explain it a little bit if you weren't available or like,
If
you know,
I
whatever.
was not available, but I am now.
I don't know.
In any event,
And how?
like usually I just remember I think we would go up to his place and we would like have pizza or whatever for dinner, and then we would get all dressed up and get all excited, and that was the area. That was the best part of town for doing trick or treating. And so that was
because
what
it
we
was the
would
rich
do.
part.
It was, yeah.
Full size candy bars.
Not
baby.
for everybody, but it was it was the most perfectly aligned, the newer part of town. It's like the houses are, it's just a great neighborhood for doing it because you knew everybody. We basically knew more than half the people in that area, and it was a good time. And I do remember we would always, after we were done trick or treating, we would go to the little gym, and that's where we were hanging out. Brad, why didn't you come find us, man?
I don't know. We just our paths didn't cross. I was too scared in the corner, I guess.
It was. Yeah,
You know me. I'm not the
I-
outgoing party guy.
I just remember throwing a dollar bill to some hobo that was sitting in front of the building. But anyway, but that's what it was. They would give you some candy, and then they would show cartoons. And I remember they would always just show the exact same cartoons every single year. And it was Mighty Mouse was one of them.
That is correct. Now you're bringing back some memories.
Right. And I think maybe Bugs Bunny for another couple of them, but the big one was Mighty Mouse. And I used
Or
to
if
love
Mr. Rothweiler was there was a Gopher basketball highlight video on.
that. Yeah, there you go. So as far as costumes go, I don't remember too many of my costumes, but I do remember Man-at-Arms from He-Man.
Oh,
Right. And it was the same type of thing where it was the eye holes and it's just like you're in pain. And if you listen to Jerry Seinfeld's bit on Halloween, he describes it perfectly because it's like you get all excited about this costume and then you got to wear this giant winter coat over it because it would be snowing half the time. But yeah, the eye holes would be like gouging your eyes out halfway through. And it'd be freezing cold, but your face would be hot. And so then you had to take your mask off, or what happened half the time, the little tiny thin rubber band
it'd break.
holding it together would always break.
you need to break
after about
or
the
pull
third
out
house.
one side.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then you get to the door, you'd have to hold it up to say trick or treat. And then you just
Help me out here. I walked 8 miles and my costume fell apart.
I can't feel my toes.
Oh man. But definitely great memories. I would definitely go back and do it again. Let's do that. Let's go to Tyler.
I'd sure like a redo after my sad story. So
Yeah. It's like you didn't have a childhood. You're like
Right.
my childhood was amazing. It's just Halloween. I don't know.
Just
Everything fell
Halloween,
apart
yeah.
that one day a year.
I remember that you. I remember you not being a big trick or treat guy. Oh,
No.
but I also remember. Hey, did you guys ever go to the haunted house? They used to have the haunted house in Tyler.
No.
And
No, I
it was
never
a
did.
Scared of it,
different
probably.
location.
You know, I
It
didn't
was
watch horror movies. I didn't do any of that stuff. So this
right.
month was hard
Exactly.
for me, guys, but I've really enjoyed it and I've learned a lot.
That's
I mean,
good.
the Tyler haunted house. I mean, it was pretty tame, but for a kid, it was good. It was just right for a kid that
Where
age
was this? What
to
house
go
was it?
through. They had different locations, but I remember once they did have. It was like a trailer that they had somehow modified, and it
Hmm.
was big enough that you would walk through it, and
I seem to have a
like you'd
vague
walk.
memory of that.
Yeah, you'd walk through the trailer, and then go through the back door of it. It had like two doors. You'd go in one door, and then it had a back door, and then you were in like this backyard behind it. And so there was a whole bunch more stuff back there, right?
Too close for a back door.
And it was, yeah, it was in that area on Main
Yeah.
Street. In that area on Main Street, kind of between the post office and between where Marsha's Snip and Clip used to be on
Okay.
that part of town. There's like a big alleyway there. So, yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of great memories.
Yeah, you'd
Sorry.
think it would have been a great time.
Sorry you didn't have any
I'm
of
glad
them.
that you enjoyed it, Pete. I'm happy for you. It's probably the only thing from my childhood that just wasn't quite idyllic.
Oh, there's always something.
I know. It's okay. I've lived a good life. All right, but anyway, so like I mentioned earlier, do you have anything more to add?
No.
Okay. No. My memories of Halloween gravitate towards television because I watched TV as a kid. I love TV. And when I was a kid, I was the world's biggest Garfield fan.
Mhm.
I owned every Garfield book, and every time a new one came out, I would get it. My mom would buy it. I couldn't wait for it. And that was my thing. I just loved Garfield so much. And so he started having specials in the 80s. And in 1985, on October 30th, this one aired. This was the fourth special, I think, but
Yep.
this was the first like holiday themed one. Christmas and Thanksgiving came later. And I also loved Charlie Brown and the Charlie Brown specials because my whole family, my brother and sister, who are much older, but they loved those. They grew up with those. Not Garfield as much because he was more my age.
Yep.
They, of course, Charlie Brown was around since the 60s, so they grew up with that. And I would love to watch those specials every year, Halloween, Christmas, and that's what I remember. And I would live for that. And if I couldn't watch it, I would record it. We had a VCR by then, thankfully, because there's no way I was missing that. And so this was my choice. It was easily my choice because, as I've mentioned all month, I'm not a horror movie guy, although I realized I've watched more horror movies than I thought. And watching these that you guys picked really was enjoyable. So I appreciate trying that out.
You're a horror movie guy now.
I wouldn't go that far, but I've got some opinions now.
There you go.
So we'll start with Garfield in Disguise. So this is actually, you're going to find it now listed as Garfield's Halloween Adventure, but
Mhm.
it was called Garfield in Disguise. All these specials had a name like that back then. And so that's how I remember it. And this won an Emmy for Best Animated Program. So this was well received, well done.
Really?
It sure did. And I think what I love about Garfield is that, and I kind of have this at the end, but it kind of comes up now, I guess, too. Garfield, to me, is more of an adult cartoon, even though it's good for kids. But there's lines and there's references to like really random weird things in Garfield. And like, do you know the Billy Joel song, It's Still Rock and Roll, and he references Beau Brummel? Well, I knew that name because Garfield referenced Beau Brummel in his cartoons. And I'm like, who the heck is that? But as a 9-year-old kid, I recognized things like that. And so the humor was there was dumb, straightforward humor, but there was also some stuff that was a little different. And in his specials, like in this one, this is a little darker than most kids' specials.
It was.
And so it has that going for it. But the other thing it has going for it is that it's not a musical per se, but there's a lot of songs in them. And the Garfield songs are they're like jazzy, classy, good music. Lorenzo Music and Lou Rawls. Lou Rawls is singing in these songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of relates to Charlie Brown in that way to me, which is known for its awesome jazzy piano music. And so I always felt like Garfield was a little higher class, obviously than like some crap like the Family Circus. Um, and when these specials came out on TV, they went places that some other ones didn't. I mean, they weren't like maybe groundbreaking, and they maybe weren't amazing, but they had a little more to them than just a dumb animated, like a Smurfs special. I mean, all you're going to get there is just a dumb story with a lesson at the end. There's a little more weight to Garfield, and you can enjoy it as an adult still, I think. So
for those counting at
Apologies
home,
to
Brad is
Bill
so
Keane.
far ripped on the Smurfs and on Family Circus. All right, let's keep
well,
that
by the
going
way,
up.
I was also a giant Smurfs fan in elementary school. I owned all the Smurf figurines, so
I remember that.
let's not
California
go too
raisins
far there.
too.
California Raisins.
And the California Raisins. So anyway, I chose these, and Garfield we're going to talk about first. So I've pretty stated clearly, I think, why I picked it and what I thought about it. We'll get into some details, but why don't you guys tell me what you thought? Because I don't know, maybe I'm sure Pete's seen it, but Gifford, I don't even know. Maybe you've never seen it before. So
I don't remember seeing this one specifically. I remember watching Garfield shows. So there have been 15 specials that Lorenzo Music has done, and he did 121 episodes of Garfield and Friends.
yeah, so
And
that came out in the mid '80s too, and so that was
I think
nice
I
when they
remember-
added that Saturday morning show.
Right, I remember watching that more. So I love the guy's voice. I mean, Garfield always seems like he's just a little bit disgusted with the world, which is
Yeah, well,
hilarious
it's
to
so
me.
That's the whole point.
Just likes him, me.
It's just like Brad. I love that, he always looked, and because he always looks disgusted, his eyes are always just open a little bit a lot of times, so he looks like he's high or drunk.
I never thought that before.
Which I find hilarious. So we're going to talk about Charlie Brown also tonight, but I really enjoyed rewatching this. And I think maybe because I haven't seen a Garfield cartoon in a while, and I've seen, Charlie Brown specials growing up, and you've seen it so many times. It's like, okay, So this one was a little bit more fun for me to watch.
Good.
Go ahead, Pete.
Pete, initial thoughts?
I thought it was hilarious. I enjoyed it. I've tweeted or I texted you guys during the line that it just put me in tears when he's introducing Odie. They're wearing pirate costumes, and he brings in Odie and introduces him as his first mate, Odie the Stupid. I don't know. I can't
not laugh.
I just started rolling in tears, and my kids were watching it with me, and they're like, "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Because I was just cackling at that.
It's funny though that you brought, because as I watched it now, the line that I loved is right after that, where he looks at Odie and he goes, "Arr, you be having too many peg legs there, matey," and he hits him and knocks all the peg legs off.
He has 4 peg legs. He comes up with 4. It's so great.
It's like those little things too. You got to be paying close attention. That's what to me makes a great, great comedy. You brought up that it's a little darker. I do remember, and I didn't think of this going into it when I watched it this time, and I hadn't seen it probably since I was a kid, but I do remember now being kind of scared of this this one at the end. How it goes, because they go to this ghost house. They get stranded on this island where they lose their oars to the boat. And so they go to this house, and there's this old man there that tells a story of how these pirates are going to come back at midnight.
By the way, is Garfield and Odie. Odie's with him on the trick-or-treating trip. So
that's correct.
And the old man himself is quite scary looking.
Yes, he was. Right,
yep.
Right.
And what I loved about that story was he starts telling this, this story that's supposed to be scary, and Garfield goes, "Catchy beginning."
Yeah. He's always got that good comment. See,
he's always great.
There's every special too. By the way, you probably don't know this, but in every special, when he turns to the camera and he says, "Nice touch." There's a moment like that in every special where there's some kind of big fireworks or scene or something, and he turns to the camera and he says, "Nice touch."
And he did that with the thunder and lightning right when they get to the house.
Yeah, because the timing of it was very predictable.
Yeah.
But yeah, my daughter, she watched it every year with me, but she did think it was actually pretty scary.
Yeah.
And my kids, who are now 15 and 13, but I did convince them to watch these with me again last night to try to bring back some old times. They're on their phones, of course, the whole time. But even my daughter said that she still got a little freaked out watching it because she's not hard to freak out, but it does because it's pretty straightforward, the story, until they lose their oars in the water. And then it does take this dark turn, and the skeleton pirates are quite creepy looking. And then there's a scene where it looks like Garfield actually drowns and is going to die. I mean, there's a lot going on there at the end, but it all builds up to the nice, very, very touching conclusion too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do have just one fun fact about this one that you may not have caught.
Okay.
That I did come across, but the boat in that they had, the boat was named the Carolyn. And that was named after Jim Davis's wife.
Ah,
so
that I did not know.
Nice touch.
I did see a name on the boat, but I didn't think about it. I wrote down, so there was 4 songs in this early on that I wrote down. There's This Is the Night, where he learns it's Halloween and he gets all excited. It's like the credits song. And then there's What Should I Be, when he's trying on all the costumes in the attic. Then there's like a pirate shanty song when they go out on the street. And then there's a song called Scaredy Cat, where they keep seeing these things and they're not scared, but then it is like this weird thing and they get scared.
That was a funny clip, that little sequence there.
Well, I was going to ask, was there a song that stood out that you actually kind of enjoyed or liked in this special? Because I liked all 4 of them.
Yeah, that's probably the one. It wasn't so much the song, but it was just funny how it was like he was scared of a ghost or whatever, and then he lifts it up and it's like a Bigfoot.
Yeah,
leg
or there was one where the ghost is literally, there's nothing there, so it's
right.
And then the one guy, he walks up and he has a mask on. He pulls it, it's the same mask. Did that guy look like Gargamel to you?
Yes, he does.
Smurfs? Yeah, he does. You're right.
Good point.
Maybe a crossover.
The song I liked the best was when he was trying on the costumes.
That's mine too. What Should I Be?
That's the one I liked.
I thought that's really
I liked them all. Yeah, I thought they were all very good, but that one was the one I liked the best.
The other thing that I thought, so we talked about the ending where it gets a little scary, but the other thing that makes this a little different than other kids specials is right off the bat, Binky the Clown. This guy is not your typical like kids clown. He calls the kids worthless if they don't get up and work out with him. He calls them losers. So right off the bat, the tone is a little more like in your face.
It reminded me of Krusty the Clown from Simpsons.
Yeah, it's more like that. And in most episodes, Garfield's got a line too where he says, "Whoever invented whatever should be drug out into the street and shot." And that's kind of a harsh saying too for a cartoon. So, Garfield tells you what's up, man.
One of the things I liked was towards the beginning of it, he was telling jokes to the camera, and then he would get a rim shot out of after everyone. He put the rim shot.
Odie's so stupid. It was those jokes.
Right? Yeah. Oh, God, so great.
If he were any uglier, there'd need to be 2 of them.
Right.
To raise his IQ, he has to stand. What? He has to stand on a ladder or something like that, or a chair.
Yeah.
Another line that I found funny that chuckle at, that's really probably not even that funny, but it makes me laugh. Like you had the Odie the Stupid, is when Garfield says, "No, Halloween's my middle name, Gar Halloween Field." That gets me. I don't know, it's stupid, but I think it's funny.
The line I liked was, I think it's when they. After the old man is gone and they're hiding in the cabinet, I think he says it. He goes,
"Oh, this might be the other one I have down.
My boat's gone, my candy's gone, dead pirates are coming anytime. Yep. It's past my bedtime."
That's my other, and I loved it when he says dead pirates are coming any minute. It makes me totally think of Dumb and Dumber. Our pets are falling. I love that line. I'm glad you got that one down.
So one of the other things that caught me and reminded me of another one of my favorite movies of all time. So when Garfield he's gone under at the end, and Odie's trying to save him, and Odie, his hat's floating, and Odie comes over, looks down, is trying to find him, and he looks in the hat for him. That reminded me of Clark on the ladder when he checks his sleeve.
I had three other little things about Odie that I liked too. Very, very minor detail, but I love Odie's earring in his costume.
Yes.
In his tall, there's a little earring up there in his tall ear.
Yep.
When they are hiding from the pirates and he sneezes and they see him and then they both just quietly shut the cabinet like like you didn't see us. That's like legitimately funny. And then Odie is interesting because he's so dumb, but there's twice in here where he like looks at the camera and like he's questioning Garfield, like, I understand what's going on here. And there's more to Odie than you really think. The first time is when Garfield says that he has to go help him get candy that night. That's the job of a dog. And he kind of looks at the camera, but then he does it.
Right.
And then again, when he says he wants to get on the rowboat, Odie's the smart one who looks at the camera like, this is not going to end well. So it's nice that they give Odie a little more of a personality too.
Some more depth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I always loved Odie. He's just, happy.
The
go lucky,
dynamic
ready
between
to
those
go.
two is, yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's great because Garfield is such a horrible jerk to him, but in so many of these, they have that coming together moment at the end because Odie saves his life and Garfield loves him and he giving him half the candy is how it ends, and it's like a big deal for Garfield, and they hug, and it always has that nice ending and how they stand up for each other. Garfield actually loves Odie deep down.
Right. Well, it is a kid's show, so I mean,
Yeah, so it does
nice
have
little-
that nice finish. Once you get
nice little
scared,
wrap.
you can wrap it up there.
Right.
So yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It sounded like. Any other comments? Because I'm done with my comments on Garfield, other than that just he's my favorite.
I think we covered it.
No, that's about it.
As I was saying that too, the other thing that it kind of reminds me of when I was trying to explain it being more like adultish in a way, it's kind of like Calvin and Hobbes, which is one of my other all-time favorite cartoons, which
That's
a
right.
kid can read it and love it. But Calvin and Hobbes is even beyond Garfield. It's got way lots of depth. And like
Mhm.
an adult can sit down and read that and like totally be entertained and find things a kid never would. So it's kind of like the level below Calvin and Hobbes, but it's it's not the Smurfs either. So
Mhm.
okay.
All right.
So up until 2015, these two episodes usually ran pretty much back to back on network TV. And so then we're going to talk about The Great Pumpkin next.
Yes.
And that came out in 1966, 1 year after the Christmas special. The famous Christmas special aired in 65. So this was the next one. And speaking of the airings on TV, so last year, they switched all the Charlie Brown cartoons to Apple TV. And that made people angry. That was controversial because people want to watch it on live TV, on network TV. And it got to be so bad that they actually ended up getting PBS aired it on TV, which is not quite the same as CBS in my opinion, but Apple allowed them to do that even though they had the rights because the backlash was so huge.
Mhm.
And so that's how big Charlie Brown is. And these have been, you don't mess with that. They're going to be on every year and people are going to watch them. So that was a new thing from last year. This was also full of great jazzy music. And this one didn't win an Emmy, but it was Emmy nominated. I don't know what beat it. I'd be curious to see what it would have lost to. And
Yeah,
so when
me
this
too.
started, I asked my kids, because we watched Garfield first, I asked, so what do you think about this one? And Isla said right away that this one just has good vibes. That's what she likes about it. And I think the music is part of that, because when this hits, and Linus and Lucy, the whole opening scene, there's no dialogue, and they're just running out to get the pumpkins, and the Linus and Lucy song is playing. I mean, you can't not feel good watching that. So it does have good vibes. And that's how it starts. So what about you guys? I'll turn it over to you, Giff, again.
Well, again, I've seen this quite a few times. Not recently, obviously, but I
watch it every year.
Do you?
Even by
It's-
myself, I'd watch it. I wouldn't even need my kids to watch it.
Like Christmas Vacation for me. I
Correct.
watch it every year. So I mean, I guess I didn't have a whole lot on this one. It was, it's familiar. The music is familiar. The characters are familiar, so you have those dynamics already built in between all the characters. again, Lucy comes right back with, she's such a bitch. I mean, even in the
But like
opening
Garfield,
scene,
there's an ending scene though where you get
Yeah.
another dynamic there. So we'll get to that
right,
later.
she comes, yeah.
But yeah,
But still,
she's the worst.
even in the opening scene where they're going to get the pumpkin and she just expects him to get it home, like she just walks with her nose in the air in front of him, and he's got to struggle with this thing, and so she's such a downer. But
on the other hand, Linus, I wrote down, is such a baby.
yeah,
I mean, you got the sucking the thumb and the blanket, but even just the way he talks and cries at the beginning, it's like, come on. For a guy who quotes scripture and seemingly is like 10 years smarter than he's supposed to be, his maturity is like, grow up, dude.
Now, hold on a second. Now, you say that Lucy's a bitch. You know who's a bigger bitch? The random girl that just was that Violet?
I'm not sure.
The random girl that just Linus is sitting there, and then Lucy gets done razzing on him. She walks away. He's inside their own house, presumably. He's like sitting in the living room, and then this random girl comes out of nowhere, who's nowhere else in the episode that I can recall, and then she just gets her word in and then walks away.
Gets her word in,
and it's like, who are you?
I know the kids. That's the thing with this show.
Hell out of my house.
The kids are mean on these shows. I mean, obviously Charlie Brown gets treated like the worst ever. So it's
right.
It's funny to call it good vibes because the way the kids are, it's like bullying 101 here and what not to do. But somehow it all works out. So
I have a little bit of a different perspective, though.
Go ahead.
You're talking about good vibes, unless you have more to add. But
no, I got more later. Go ahead.
The show, to me, ends on such a down note. It's there are things that are unresolved, and it ends with Linus and Charlie Brown just fighting with each other, and basically that's it. I mean,
it would have been better if it ended with Lucy, right?
Well, or if there's some kind of resolution where, first of all, Linus is all depressed because the Great Pumpkin never showed up, and then so he's with Charlie Brown and they're talking, and then Charlie Brown said something about it, like basically, well, maybe it's not real. I don't.
He pretty much called him stupid. Like
pretty much called him stupid.
And Linus just goes off on him.
And he goes off on him, and that's the end of the show. By the way, Sally is pissed at Linus because she wasted her entire Halloween, on this stupid Great Pumpkin that never showed up, and that was it.
So actually, you're right. Garfield actually does end on a much higher note.
Yeah,
in the very end than Charlie Brown does.
Now, the Charlie Brown Christmas special has a great ending and everybody's happy, but this one doesn't have that kind of an ending at all.
Yeah, because the Christmas special starts with them talking at the wall, Charlie Brown and Linus.
Right.
So they get the more depressing stuff out of the way at the beginning there.
That's how it should go. You got to end on a cartoon like this. You got to end on a happy note.
Well, so I do have a couple questions about the Great Pumpkin itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what kind of an entity is the Great Pumpkin supposed to be? Like, he's like, how does it fly? And he says, so the story is, he comes out of the pumpkin patch that's most sincere. So, okay, first of all, what the hell is a sincere pumpkin patch? What's a hypocritical pumpkin patch? But after it comes out of the pumpkin patch, it brings toys to all the kids in the world. Okay, so theoretically, it didn't come out of Linus's pumpkin patch. Okay, fine. But shouldn't it still come give everybody presents from whichever patch it did choose?
Yeah,
so Linus, put 2 and 2 together, man, and get over it. This thing ain't real.
What if the Great Pumpkin and the Blair Witch are the same thing?
It makes Linus stand in the corner while it gets Charlie Brown.
Right?
Both movies end on a sad note. Or
maybe Lucy grew up to be the Blair Witch.
Oh, I could see that.
On track for that.
Yep, she's on track for that. So one of the other things, like you talk about Linus being supposedly the smartest kid, I thought it was amazing when he said, "You don't talk to people about religion or politics."
Yeah,
like, that's all he ever does.
Yeah,
right. But I mean, that's a pretty big statement for a kid of his age. But then at the same time, he also believes in the Great Pumpkin, who's going to
Mhm.
rise from the most sincere
He's
pumpkin
a
patch.
man of contradictions.
Yes, he absolutely is.
I like, and
So,
that's again the Charlie Brown shows. Again, it's like they're kid shows, but the kids talk like adults. I mean, it's geared as much to an adult to watch and enjoy as it is to a kid. And
right.
the kids talk like adults. They don't talk like kids. They use kid voices, but they use big words and they talk about religion. And I mean,
Well, maybe they go to the same school system that the kids in Clueless went.
Clueless.
Yeah, this is a
Well,
really
this
good
is a really
school.
good school. Go back and listen to Clueless.
Well, an example of that, Brad, would be when Lucy the bitch pulls off the whole football, the
Oh, yeah.
football thing, and then she ends it by saying, "Oh, it was never
Well,
notarized."
even the word
Oh.
peculiar thing about this letter.
Right.
Yeah, and what kid knows what a notarization means? I mean, it's
Well,
Right.
and
so
Sally
see,
is
that's why I
talking
love
about
these shows because they
restitution.
were. I was always a little ahead of my time, and I was always a little smarter than the average kid. So I really related here.
That's because on Halloween night you stayed home and read books instead of
Yep.
trick or treating like normal
If I had
kids.
trick or treated, I would have lost it all. One of my
Now, well,
favorite things in this episode and in most Charlie Brown episodes is there's a scene where Snoopy just starts laughing at one of the kids. Or just
yeah.
and I just love Snoopy's laugh, and I love when he just mocks the kids. That's always great.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that's kind of interesting is that both in this one and in Garfield, Snoopy's the same size as the kids. And in
Yep.
Garfield is the same size as the kids out when he's walking.
Oh, the kids,
trick-or-treating in
right?
the
Usually you
beginning.
see adults with him, but yeah, there's kids out there.
Yeah. So like a beagle is not a very large breed of dog, which Snoopy is, and I don't know many cats that are the size of a 8-year-old
True.
kid out trick-or-treating, but yeah.
One thing
So-
on that note, one thing that my daughter picked out is that towards the beginning, when Linus is trying to mail that letter, and Lucy's saying, "I'm not going to help you," know, because why would you, right? But then my daughter said, "What help is she going to be? Because they're the same size."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you put them on your shoulders.
Yeah, maybe she
and
was going to do that.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other thing I can think of.
Speaking of that letter, this is a question I hadn't really thought about until I've watched this a million times, and last night I'm like, so Linus is writing a letter at the table. And as he's writing it, Lucy's talking to him, but then Charlie Brown and Sally are coming in and out too. Whose house are they at? It's just like a revolving door.
It's sort of like The Room, Brad. It's like
Yeah.
they come in, say their line, and leave.
Yeah, it's like Claudette. Well, I gotta go. You just got here. I also the letter again when Charlie Brown gets invited to the party and he's so happy. I love his little happy dance where he puts his face up in the air and he dances and he's happy.
Yep.
But then of course Lucy just brings him down. You were not supposed to be invited to this party.
Yeah.
Well, much like Pete's parties in elementary school.
That's
You were
right.
the Charlie Brown of the group.
I never accidentally got that invitation in the mail.
We made sure of that.
Another one of those lines that I liked. It's kind of more adultish. Sally has a good line when they're explaining trick or treating to her because apparently she's never gone, and she says, "I wouldn't want to be accused of taking part in a rumble." I think that's quite funny because she's so young and her voice is so young and everything too. So it's even funnier that way.
The actress actually, I got a story there for you.
Oh?
The actress actually was 6 years old at the time, and they had to rush because they had to rush her through her lines because she had a loose tooth. They didn't want her to lose the tooth, and then it would lose continuity because her voice would sound different, or she'd have the little lisp or whatever. Immediately after she finished her last line recording, the tooth fell out, so they got lucky there.
Wow. Well, and that's actually really impressive because the other thing I wrote down about Sally, well, two things actually. First of all, she's quite a feminist because she will tell you what's okay to do and what's not. Even though she loves Linus, he better not be pulling any crap out there.
That's what I said. Now, I mean, she's totally in love with him, but yeah, don't be holding my hand, though.
She gets to decide what's okay, Pete.
Right.
Right.
But then at the end of that, she goes off on this huge diatribe against him, which is just fantastic. And now that you say it's a 6-year-old that actually read that,
Right.
that's really good because
It is.
that is a good, well-read, angry scene there. So
When she says, "I demand restitution,"
yeah,
it,
there's another good
she-
word.
the actual actress could never say the word restitution correctly, and they had to cut it up. And I don't know, I found that fact today, so if you go back and maybe you can tell, but they had to, that's edited, spliced together
Really?
to make the word restitution.
Interesting.
She
That's
was
cool.
6, yeah.
I will probably watch it again before the month is over. So,
Yeah.
we should probably mention the Red Baron scenes. So
Mhm.
that is the one thing I was never a fan of. Even though I love Snoopy, those scenes kind of just put me to sleep. I just thought I want to get back to the kids and the party.
They do.
And even
It's
last
like-
night when I'm watching it, I actually noticed my eyes closed during that exact scene, and I thought that was pretty funny. But they were considered to be like great animation at the time. So apparently that was like a thing that made those stand out. But as far as the story goes, I could have done without that part.
See,
it's
and those
part
are
of the
always
legacy
one
of
my-
Charlie Brown. Or
Well,
Peanuts.
true. It is very famous. So I mean, I
Right.
get it.
And I always liked those scenes. I always thought it was fun because you get to see Snoopy and him doing his thing. And like when I was growing up, I had like a stuffed animal that was a Snoopy that I really liked. So when Snoopy was in a scene, for me, it was, it was a little more meaningful and I paid more attention.
But even that too, they're referring to World War I and all these random. I mean, again, kids aren't going to understand any of those references, but they can still
Right.
get into the story. And I mean, but that's what I mean. It's not written for like a 6-year-old, but a 6-year-old can obviously enjoy it and love it just the same. That's what I love about good animation, when they can do that line like that. And I feel like these both do that pretty well.
Sure. Well, and I hadn't watched this in years, and so I've had 2 kids now, and you read books to your kids, and unfortunately, some of the books that we read were Caillou books, and I never put together that Caillou is basically just a visual ripoff of Charlie Brown.
Yeah, only he's the worst character ever.
Oh yeah, he's the worst. Yeah, Charlie Brown is way less annoying, but they look like they could be cousins.
Oh, no, I know, I get that. It's
Family.
just that Caillou show. I don't even know any kids that like that show. It's a running joke everywhere.
Yeah, well, I never watched the show, but we, got some books, so we would read, some books at night before bed. But
we watched enough episodes when my kids were really young that even they knew right away they hated it, and we still can make jokes about it. So
yeah.
So you mentioned the very end, Pete, and you're right. I kind of forgot how it does end on a downer, because right before that, it has the sweet ending where Lucy wakes up in the middle of the night and she realizes she goes to check on her little brother, who she treats like crap, realizes he's not in bed. She walks out to the cold pumpkin patch. Not only does she carry him inside, she gets him in, she takes his shoes off, she tucks him in. It's really sweet. And again, you can tell Lucy, as mean as she is, she understands her sisterly responsibilities, and it's sweet. And if it had ended there, it'd have been probably a better ending overall. Because now Linus is so dumb. It's like, you didn't learn anything. Come on.
So do you think children watching this, young children watching this, obviously there's the straight on comparisons to Santa Claus,
right,
to this,
sure,
and
that's what I was writing. Like Santa Claus, let's say Santa Claus appeared in somebody's sincere chimney first. Okay, he's still gonna go give presents to everybody after that.
Right.
That's where Linus's logic is really flawed.
But my point being that at the end of this, the Great Pumpkin never shows up. The Great Pumpkin's obviously not real. So do you think were kids out there watching this? And I don't remember putting 2 and 2 together on that. But do you think there were kids out there watching it going, well, this is supposed to be like Santa on Christmas, and Santa doesn't,
I think the
show up,
fact that the Great Pumpkin never shows up, and I think even the kids are smart enough to realize that this is not a thing.
But Santa's fine.
But they get told that all along by their parents and everybody. That's a little different than just this one random cartoon character.
Well,
You know
and
what-
kids
you
always
know what
wake
I
up
worry
to
about?
presents
And
from
they
Santa.
actually get presents from Santa.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know what I worry about? I worry that there's going to be some little kid listening to our podcast that believes in Santa, and now here's our conversation.
That's
Oh,
our
no.
one. That's
And
our
now we
one
ruined
listener.
it. That's our
Right.
one listener.
Listen, Timmy. Listen, Timmy. I was just kidding. Santa's real.
We got more great content coming, Timmy. Don't give up.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he didn't check out after Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm doubting he's getting to this one.
Oh, God. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys got any more, but I think that exhausts my notes on this one here. Pete?
That's about all I've got.
I
we've
did ask
covered
my
every-
kids.
Oh,
Oh,
there's
go
one
ahead.
more fun fact that that I forgot to mention is that Lucy is so self-centered that you probably didn't notice this, but as she's sitting on the floor, she's reading a TV guide, and the TV guide has her picture on it. So that was
Oh,
one
wow.
little shout out to themselves that they threw into the episode.
I have
I
not
missed
ever
that.
noticed that. I got to watch for that.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Now I have a
totally
real
missed
reason
that.
to watch it again.
I found online there was a picture of that. So so there you go. Other than that, I think we've covered all my notes.
So I did ask my kids which one they liked better because I kind of thought they might pick Garfield, but they both did pick Charlie Brown, which I get. The thing is, even though Charlie Brown is maybe full of bullying and anger and dumb kids and all, they still feel like it has that better vibe, and they still feel like it's not scary either. So I think the scary part is why they choose it over Garfield. Because even my son, who never acts scared, he claims that he was actually scared too as a kid, a little bit of Garfield. So
I can see
that's
that.
why
Yeah.
that's why they picked Charlie Brown. When it comes to a Christmas special, Charlie Brown's mine all day. But for this one, I think I would actually choose Garfield personally if I had to choose just one.
I would too.
Yeah,
It's tough
I would
because The
too.
Great Pumpkin goes back so long, and it's probably like the first special like I really ever got into. But when you talk about some of the things going on in it and really look into it, it's a little odd. And so
Mhm.
I do love Garfield. He's my guy.
Yeah, it definitely is for you. Two things
Always-
I remember coming over to your place, reading Garfield books and Double Dribble. Those are the two things in Brad's room that were always
Nintendo and
gonna-
Garfield all day long.
Still. Still.
You can still come over to my house right now and do both of those things, by the way.
Right.
So anytime.
All right, I'll be down in 4 hours.
Okay. So you both said you also prefer Garfield overall?
Yeah,
They're good for different reasons, right?
Well,
I think
exactly.
Garfield is overall funnier, but Charlie Brown and Peanuts is just more nostalgic. And
That's why I
Yeah.
don't even like saying I like Garfield better because I am Mr. Nostalgia and like that's what it has. That it has nostalgia up the wazoo. So,
nostalgia is your
up
middle
the
name.
wazoo.
but Garfield has Gar Halloween Field. And actually, Garfield is the one that won the Emmy too. So
Yeah,
That's right.
I was kind of surprised. That made me really happy because I don't know how Garfield is received by the general populace and critics. So to see that it actually was considered pretty good makes me very happy. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel validated in that way. And when I picked these, I was like, do I have you guys watch both or do we just watch The Great Pumpkin? And so the fact that you both got into Garfield so much, again, validation. My night is made
Perfect.
right here.
That's what we're here for.
What a great finish. We just had our happy ending and our sweet finish to our month of Halloween here.
Hey, Gifford,
yeah.
you can take your hands off my Ouija board now.
All right, close the Ouija board, Pete.
Oh boy.
The other thing I was wondering, Pete, is if people like our podcast, where can they go and what can they do? And do you have any examples of what they can do?
They do. I do. They can go onto Apple Podcasts. They can leave reviews. I've got a few reviews here that I can read off.
I'd love
First
to
of
hear
all,
Who
Can I
doesn't want to
point
hear a
out-
review?
can I point out that we have a perfect 5-star review? or
Rating?
5-star score rating.
17
So
out of 17, baby.
Everybody that's ranked us has given us 5 stars, and you should too if you haven't
Little
already.
Timmy's ranked
if
us
you have,
17 times.
even if you have, do it again. Vote early, vote often, right?
Yes.
But if you haven't, why not? If you are somebody listening right now, why wouldn't
Right.
you? Because you obviously are giving us your time. Go on and hit that button there. Write a
That's right.
two-word review even if you want. Just say, "Great job, dudes."
So first, I do want to give a shout out to Playlist Wars.
Playlist Wars is a fantastic podcast that I listen
is.
to weekly.
They are, but what they say about us is that we all have our favorite moments from growing up, and Pop Culture Yearbook does a fantastic job bringing those memories to life in a fun and engaging conversation. Definitely worth your time to listen and enjoy reliving some of the best memories of our youth.
And has there ever been a better episode to exemplify that review than the one we just
this one right
did?
here.
Just did.
Thank you,
Yes.
Playlist Wars.
Yes,
You're the
thank
best.
you guys.
Well, don't forget about Joe Goats here.
This is from a podcast called It Happened One Year, they are doing every episode on the year 1994. And their first episode was about OJ and AC. So I think you guys know that I was hooked right away. But they're awesome. So check out It Happened One Year.
What they say about us is that these fellas take a funny and entertaining look at movies, TV shows, music, and more from the past couple decades, and it's a really fun trip. There's a great balance of detail and opinion, plus plenty of anecdotes from these old pals hanging out and talking about favorite pieces of the culture. Big fan, highly recommend.
See, and I'm just smiling right now. That's all you got to do is write us a review and you make us smile.
Absolutely. That should be everybody's goal in life, is to make us smile.
Yeah. Especially after my sad Halloween story. I mean, come on, throw me a bone.
Scotty Mayno says, I love vacation movies, and hearing these guys talk about the series is a blast. I was laughing so hard hearing them not only talk about the movie, parentheses, it's whoopee time, killed me.
Hey, Gifford, shout out to you.
There it is.
Gifford. But their Vegas stories were also great. Also you, Gifford.
Yeah.
This is a podcast whose yearbook you should definitely sign.
Now that's even better because he worked in the title. So that is from a podcast called Shoot the Flick. And that is a husband and wife who review movies together, and they are fantastic together. And they have many, many episodes out there that you could go find. Shoot the Flick. We appreciate your comment.
So, and I'm assuming his handle, Scotty May Know, is a direct correlation to Euro Trip and the song Scotty Doesn't Know.
I don't know that movie well enough to know that for sure.
Okay. Well, when I saw that handle, it made me laugh because that's immediately what I went to was Euro Trip.
But if so, I hope he's listening because you might have
on
just
Twitter.
Made him
answer
happy.
That question. Yes. Tag us on Twitter. Scotty may know.
I want to know if that's a reference to Matt Damon, the song Matt Damon sings in the beginning of Euro Trip.
That could be. Ballgame 34 says, this is a true hidden gem of a podcast. I love the content, the witty banter, and the walk down memory lane on each episode. Highly recommend this podcast.
And that is not from a fellow podcast, but from just a really great guy that found our podcast and has decided to give us that review that we so much enjoy.
Yes, and I would hope at one point we'll go
you.
from just a hidden gem to a gem.
Yeah.
A found gem.
Yes, we would like to be a found gem.
A conspicuous gem. A wonderful couple by the name of Craig and Danica.
Pete, I think you've already read this one.
Oh, did we read?
We should probably end this before we really get too far and look really stupid. So
we did. That's right.
Too late.
Too late.
But thanks, Craig and Danica. You're the best.
Yes, they are wonderful, wonderful people.
All right. I think we can wrap our show now. Let's finish it off with a little Preacher Row, shall we?
All right. I'm glad we got through this scary month. It was a fun time. So, oh my God, I couldn't even say time right.
Too many beers.
I did have a beer tonight.
That's a tall one. Standing
All right,
on my
guys.
own 2 feet. Never mind. Go on.
Bye.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Hands tied, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.